Good day to all of you. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my perspective for CFD modeling of a respiratory system. And also thank you to the organizer and more specifically to Professor Yu Feng from Oklahoma State University for inviting me. I am Thierry Marchal, Program Director for Healthcare Solutions at ANSYS. I also have the privilege to lead the Avicenna Alliance, a non-for-profit organization advocating for the regulation and adoption of in silico method. And I am an e-health expert to the European Commission. In this talk, I would like to take a 30,000 feet view of modeling and simulation for respiratory application. Why should we do it? What can we do in order to make it more impactful? Indeed, we all agree that there is a huge potential and interest for CFD, for literally seeing inside the body of the patient and understand and diagnose what is happening, to design new delivery process or new efficient ventilator in COVID time, or simply to explain the planned surgery to the patient. But we will rightly object that respiratory modeling is an extremely challenging task. To get the right patient-specific model for CFD simulation, or to get a decent mesh that could run efficiently, or to combine the lungs model with the entire body, to track a huge number, possibly millions of particles, and of course, to validate the model. But solutions do exist. Collaboration with different segmentation tools, possibly using AI, allow us to quickly go from the patient to simulation results. And this will be done in a fully integrated quite soon in the future. Extremely complex CFD simulation and airflow have been used successfully in other industry, possibly running mesh up to 3 billion cells to capture the detail with the necessary accuracy to understand even small drag variation. The cardiovascular community is routinely combining 3D model of the heart or other specific organ with reduced order model of the entire cardiovascular system. The pharma industry is regularly tracking up to 20 million particles to improve drug manufacturing process. My point is not to suggest that respiratory modeling is easy, but solutions exist, and the difficulty should not be an excuse for not doing it. The models are so complex that it could be sometimes intimidating to tackle them. But if we are driven by concrete and specific need, we can already be very careful and save many lives today. For example, respiratory modeling of upper airways could allow us to predict the particle deposition resulting from the use of different inhalers, such as the nebulizer or the turbohaler. This could give very valuable guidance about which delivery device to select. But to properly compare the device, we need to know, with a satisfying accuracy, what is the droplet definition and the size distribution coming from the two inhalers, and that depending upon the inhaling capacity of the target patient. Alternatively, the inhaler manufacturer company are willing to adjust their design to maximize the target population and ensure a proper delivery of the drug no matter of the patient condition. This requires modeling both the device and the patient, fortunately quite often in a decoupled way. Similarly, for dry powder inhaler, modeling the interaction and the collision between the particle inside the inhaler helps to ensure that the API will be separate from the carrier and reach the right size and position distribution before entering into the patient. In case of a nebulizer, if we understand the journey of droplets of different size in the upper airways, it is becoming much easier to design the nebulizer to create the required droplet size and distribution, or even to adjust it to the patient. Let me take another angle. If we know with good accuracy the size and the speed of the droplet and aerosol exiting a patient, possibly COVID contaminated, we could use this information to inform the population about the risk of contamination in specific conditions. It becomes possible to explain to a large audience the importance of properly wearing a mask, and images are much more impactful than words. It is possible to quantify the reduced risk of contamination when a patient is wearing a mask in the hospital. In this case, Vapotherm showed that wearing a mask reduces the risk of contaminating others by a factor 6. And in 2020, several companies have taken advantage of combining the flow in the upper airways with the innovative design of the ventilator, or sometimes easier to manufacture the device. Simulation involving both CFD and structural analysis were truly critical to also produce the digital evidence necessary for regulatory approval process. Indeed, the FDA and soon other agencies across the world, such as notified body in Europe, are encouraging the adoption of digital evidence for regulatory approval process. Some of this work could be quite innovative, as shown in this investigation done by Fluida about 10 years ago already. Rather than just considering the modeling of airflow in the human upper airways, they use the same numerical approach to model the particle distribution in the respiratory system in various animals, such as rats, guinea pigs, cats, dogs, and monkeys. The idea was not to save the life of lab animals, but working with virtual animals earlier in the product development process. As they were using the same numerical protocol both for animal and human, the transition between the different phases was smoother and therefore much faster. It resulted that they could release the product 2 years earlier, saving costs but also opening great business opportunity. Of course, you cannot use in situ method for regulatory approval without following a well-defined verification and validation process known as VVUQ40. Let me take this example from Applied Research Associate, for which the goal was to demonstrate the bioequivalence of a generic drug versus a branded one using only in situ method. CFD model of the airflow in the nasal cavity is showing the drug distribution in this nasal cavity for different drugs. Although we can qualitatively see some difference, it is extremely difficult to quantify them and reach any bioequivalence conclusion. The solution came from combining the CFD approach with a PBPK model of the absorption of drugs from the nasal cavity. The goal was to develop a comprehensive approach that would be accepted by the regulatory authority, and in this case, the FDA. For the PBPK side, the nasal cavity was split into 6 different compartments. And note that the geometry were considering the difference between the healthy patient and the rhinitic patient. The entire analysis has been published at the BMS 2019 conference, but we don't have the time to go through all the detail of it. But I can assure you that all the steps defined by the ASME VNV UQ40 were followed with this initial question of interest. Could an in situ method be successfully used to rigorously demonstrate the bioequivalence of the drug? What has been done? Let me wrap up this talk by mentioning the holy grail of CFD for healthcare: the large-scale adoption of modeling and simulation in the hospital by clinicians. Although we are all convinced by this approach and we all have seen fantastic presentation today, unfortunately, we are still far away from a large-scale adoption. Yet, there are some obvious and simple applications, such as this study performed by Dr. Lars Bonitz and Katfem. Clearly the favorite study for my wife because it is targeting snoring. The team showed that the origin of snoring might be diverse, but locally vibrating soft tissue in the trachea are an obvious source of annoyance. CFD and mechanical fluid structure interaction modeling was necessary in this case. They studied different patients considering the geometry before and after surgery. If you can identify the soft tissue or the vibration induced by the airflow will induce the largest noise by perturbating this airflow, it should be possible to guide the surgeon to remove them. It is, however, possible that the ablation of some soft tissue will induce new vibration. The digital iteration ensures to reduce the number of possible surgery and therefore the cost to the patient and health insurance. Beyond the snoring annoyance, this perturbated airflow could be much more dramatic, especially for patients and other people suffering from the dangerous sleep apnea. As a result of the Terrazas project, Catherine Medical is illustrating how simulation could give valuable insight to the surgeon about the current situation and most efficient way to treat the patient. It would be necessary to develop and get approved an easy-to-use application for the clinician, what is on the way. What I wanted to convey to you today was that we are using a fantastic technology to change the life of the patient, to accelerate medical innovation, and to reduce the global cost of healthcare. But we are still facing many hurdles. As we proceed along this journey, we need to continuously validate and communicate, be humble and be ambitious. Let's be driven by the clinician, regulator, and industry. Let's also share our long-term vision of digital twin and personal digital avatar. More importantly, let's join force and let's do it together. And Ansys will be working closely with you to help you succeed in this very challenging journey. Thank you so much for your attention. 12 minutes is a very short time, so let's stay connected and let's keep in touch. Thank you.